This is part 2 of the Holistically Hot and Healthier New Year. Over the next few weeks of this 3-part series, we are covering how to become the happiest, healthiest, and hottest you yet, but in the most holistically nourishing way. And I know what you're probably thinking, oh God, another new year, new you type of advice. These are things that you probably haven't heard of when it comes to your health and well-being. Over this series, I am teaching you how to create your dream health and wellness routine and life.
You're listening to The Holistic Ritual, a podcast for holistic health-minded humans seeking mind, body, spirit well-being. Hosted by Kamela Celeste, IIN holistic health coach and former personal trainer, with over a decade of experience helping humans become the best versions of themselves, both mentally and physically. Here, you'll discover meditations, affirmation readings, thought-provoking insights, and all things related to holistic health and healing. We blend Eastern and Western rituals, practices, and research to guide you on your wellness journey. Without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Welcome back if this is your first time joining us here on the Holistic Ritual. I'm your host, Kamela Celeste, and if you are watching this today, you probably are noticing the background is a little bit different. The new year came, and it came super fast. So I have been all over the place, but I wanted to make sure that I recorded this for you and I got out part 2, regardless of any other time constraints that I have going on. So we are here, we are back. This is part 2 of 3. And in part 1, just for a little review, we covered the importance of nutrition, hydration, physical activity, relationships, and social life. So that is quite the load for part 1. But what you may have learned is how they play a huge role when it comes to your well-being. If you are just joining in, be sure to listen to part 1 after finishing this episode and stick around until the end because I will be sharing some actionable tips for making small changes that will lead to having a big impact. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, let's ground ourselves. I could definitely use some grounding today, as is our opening tradition on this podcast. As you probably seen, or as I'm telling you right now, I'm recording not in my typical space. I'm actually recording at my workday desk. And so my mind, it's just throwing me through a loop for a second. So if my work personality comes through, maybe it is because I am at my desk and not at my cozy little podcast corner / studio that I usually am. So let's do a quick little affirmation reading. Let's set the vibe. Let's set the ambiance. I'm going to go ahead and light some incense, and then I will draw us an affirmation card and an oracle card. Today, I want you to take a couple deep breaths before we get into this. So breathing deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth. And let's do that a couple more times. So one deep breath for every time I shuffle. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And one last time. In through the nose. And out through the mouth. Okay. Our affirmation for the day And take it if it lands with you, leave it if it doesn't, and maybe share it with someone who might need to hear it. The affirmation is, I am safe. I trust my intuition to lead me down the right path. Looking back on my trials, I see that I am still here and thriving. I always end up better, stronger, and wiser. I have proven to myself that I will always make it, time and time again. I am safe. And now I'm going to draw an oracle card to go along with this to hopefully just get some more information about this card that came up. Trusting our intuition, trusting that we're on the right path, which is kind of similar to the affirmation that we got last time. And I'm just going to do a messy shuffle instead of my nice, neat casino shuffle. And this one popped right out. The oracle card I pulled is Lemuria. And I will show that to the screen if you are watching. It's a very beautiful place with mountains and the ocean and waterfalls. Kind of reminds me of like a summertime Belarus. If you are a Court of Thorns and Roses fantasy book reader, it is a place in the books that I am reading currently. So just what I'm tying to it at the moment. But Lemuria, creating heaven on earth, it's happening. And so this, to me, I am safe. I trust my intuition. I see that I am here. I'm thriving. I always end up better, stronger, wiser. Time and time again, I make it. I am creating heaven on earth. It is happening. And coming into 2025, this is saying that no matter your trials, your tribulations, everything that you have been through, it is leading up to a moment of clarity, positive energy, and it is time. It is time for you to step into your highest self. It is time for you to thrive, to reap the rewards of everything that you have been working towards, everything that you have been through, that you have struggled with, that you have been so resilient about. It is time to create your heaven on earth. And it's happening. The universe is willing it to happen for you. Now, even though you may not be able to see things that are happening in your favor, abundance is coming to you. I think it's a really beautiful reading for today, affirmation for today. And to remember that throughout all of this, you always end up better. And you are safe. Now that we are grounded, took a few deep breaths, did a quick little affirmation, let's get into the episode. We have 5 key topics to discuss today, 5 key areas for you to focus in on in 2025. And if you are coming back, you have done the homework, you have done all the question prompts that I left you with in the last episode. You are an A student, and before I go on, I do want to ask again for you to take out that notebook that you had last time and take some notes over this, as we are going to get into more questions to really hone in on these different topics to get you to dig a little bit deeper, and so that you can create a very unique and special routine and rituals that are as unique as you are and that fit with your lifestyle and whatever level of health and fitness you are coming into 2025 with, or whatever new year you are listening to this. So our first topic is home cooking. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Home cooking. I absolutely would rather pull out every strand of hair one by one than cook anything at home. I hear you, I know, because I was you. As a holistic health coach, as someone who educates on nutrition, it is sometimes ironic to me that I do not enjoy cooking. I hate being in the kitchen for longer than 30 minutes, max. I actually, for work, I went to a cooking class recently as like a team bonding event, and the meal took 2 hours to make. Normally, a 2-hour meal on the reg for me is not realistic. And I know for you, it's probably not realistic either. We are busy. We have so many things going on, a social life, as we talked about in the last episode. We have work things that we're doing. We have projects we're working on outside of work. We have our health and wellness to maintain, moving our bodies. The last thing that we want to be doing, or that I personally want to be doing, is spending 2 hours in the kitchen. A lot of what I share on my social platforms are very quick, easy meals that you can make in under 15 minutes, 10 minutes, under 30 minutes, that are actually nourishing for you, and to give you more of inspiration and an idea of foods to look for that may be suitable for you. Home cooking. Learning to cook your own food at home is what I would argue is key to having a great relationship with food, period. And while I just went on a rant of how I don't want to be spending 2 hours cooking a meal, when you do prepare a meal for yourself or people that you love, there's so much more love and appreciation for that meal. I know when I completed the cooking class, the 2 hours later, regardless of how long it took me, sitting down to eat that meal was very rewarding, and I just felt like it was made with so much love and warmth, and it just tasted that much better because of the energy that went into cooking that meal. But there's so much more love and appreciation when you do cook your own meals. And when you immerse yourself in the experience, so thinking about the aromas of food, the colors, feeling it, seeing the food transform, all is a beautiful transparency that so many of us miss out on, and myself included sometimes. And this is actually a little tangent, but I just learned to cook like the most basic things in my 20s. So I'm in my 30s now. But in my early 20s, when I was off to college, like I was learning how to make scrambled eggs and just very basic meals, mac and cheese. And if that's where you are starting, just know that you can start from literally anywhere. And so having a better relationship with food will actually help you when it comes to your health and well-being, to have that connection with your food personally. And I know also something else that can be helpful is meal prepping your food. Taking a couple of hours on a Sunday or a Monday to set yourself up for during the week, if you are packing your lunch, if you're on the go, or if you are working from home like I do, instead of going to the fridge or, not really knowing what to eat, what to cook, so you just order out. Or if you are in an office or at work and you are on the go and you don't have a meal with you, stopping through fast food, setting yourself up for success is a part of home cooking. And so let's get into some of those questions to ask yourself, to pull out your notebook, right down so that you can dig a little bit deeper on your relationship to home cooking and how it can be realistic for you to incorporate it into your routine currently. Question number 1, if you think you don't like to cook, where might you learn easy and even quick recipes to get you started? A cheat code here is I am the queen of quick, nutritious meals, and I have so many on my Instagram and my TikTok that I am hopefully going to be transferring over to YouTube if TikTok does get banned. It's my favorite platform to create on currently, and so that's primarily where I am at, but I will let you know where I also end up if it does get banned. The next question is, how many nights a week, realistically, could you commit to cooking your own meals? What supplies would you need? Where might you purchase them? So if you are starting from zero cooking experience, I did a quick run to Target when I first moved into my apartment here in Denver, actually, because it was the first time I ever lived by myself, to grab some basic supplies, pots, pans, and I looked for chemical-free, Teflon-free, BPA-free pans so that I was not cooking my food in pans that were harmful to my health. As I'm making these very nutritious meals, we don't want to be adding in some chemicals that are just melting into the food. And then I also, a pro tip here is I also use bamboo or wooden cooking utensils or stainless steel for cutting up and mixing around anything. So yeah, what supplies would you need? Where would you purchase them? And then what foods or what meals interest you in learning how to make? And if you're like, nothing really interests me in learning how to make, I would challenge you to come up with the foods that you love and rolling from there on how you can make them for yourself and how you can make them for yourself as quickly and as easily as possible. Rolling into the next topic, sleep. Sleep is so important. And you have probably heard it stressed to you everywhere from your doctor, from social media, but it truly is the key to so many different things, to living longer, to balancing our hormones, to making sure we're cognitively functioning well. And I hear so many of my clients say they wish they could get more sleep or they wish they could get better sleep. Whether they're burning the midnight oil, they're working with an early start the next day, or they're not able to fall asleep or they're not able to stay asleep. Or they just simply can't shut off their brains. Like I am so guilty of, I cannot shut off my brain. So I use like a sound machine. I listen to green noise on just a Spotify 10-hour playlist loop so that I can shut off my brain, and I almost instantly fall asleep when I listen to that. And being a night owl, it is sometimes challenging for me to get to bed when I would like to. And I know there are others of you out there who are like, I sleep a lot, I just don't feel rested when I wake up. So really paying attention to the quality of your sleep as well. So sleep on average 7 to 9 hours for most. And as we've also heard, for women, it is a bit different if we want to get to the little nuances there. But especially when you are on your cycle, you could need up to 10 to 12 hours of deep, restful sleep to help your body replenish and rejuvenate itself after it is doing its thing and cleaning itself out. And men can typically function on 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And these are very generalized sleep recommendations. If you are wanting to look into more, like how many hours should I personally be sleeping, definitely do that for yourself. And then maybe even start logging, and you're noticing, oh, okay, I slept for 5 hours. I actually felt pretty good. Or I slept for 12 hours and I felt amazing. Or I slept for 12 hours and I felt horrible. I felt so sluggish. Maybe doing like a little mini study on yourself and logging kind of like first thing when you wake up, how many hours did you sleep? just writing down in like a journal or something. How many hours did you sleep? And what was your quality like? And how are you feeling this morning? Or how are you feeling throughout the day based off of that night's sleep? So I know if I get less than 7 hours of sleep, sometimes less than 8 hours of sleep, even my workouts will just be absolute trash. So paying attention to little things like that, and then working towards quality sleep. Our cells in our bodies and our brain can literally be cleaned, restored, and reset during sleep. And we've also learned through extensive research over the years that skipping out on quality sleep can take years off your life. It is such important stuff, and I could make a whole video on just sleep and sleep hacks. So if you want to see that, please let me know. Here are some questions to ask yourself about sleep and how you can really dial in your own sleep hygiene. What is my evening routine? What is my evening wind down routine? And how can I make the last few hours before bed the most calming and relaxing for my nervous system? What is an amount of sleep that feels good and refreshing for me? And the last question is, what do I need to ensure my bedroom environment is only for sleeping or sex? And this is where I'm gonna elaborate a bit more, but your bedroom should be strictly for sleep and sex and anything that is calming your nervous system. So it should not have screens. It should not have bright light, getting some curtains to make sure that they can close and you can have the room as dark and as cold as it can possibly be. You sleep deeper and better when the room is colder. So just a couple of things to keep in mind, and that can be like I said, I could go off on a whole sleep tangent on conditions of sleep. Yeah. So getting into this next topic, you might be a little bit confused as to how does it play into my health and my well-being, but considering on average, we spend 90,000 hours at our jobs, not including the hours that we spend commuting. We are talking about your career. So 90,000 hours, that is a lot of time that we spend to be doing something we don't enjoy, or at the very least that something that we can tolerate. Our careers are so important for our mental and our physical well-being. So thinking about if we're working a job or working jobs where we're chronically stressed, or we're working with people who are unkind to us, this will show up in our bodies. We get headaches, tight traps, our hips become tighter, and our mental states outside of work, it can carry over if we're not able to turn all of that off. And I will just share a quick little example is when I used to work at a very popular athletic wear store during COVID. I was laid off from my job. And so I was doing anything and everything to just try and help me pay the bills. And at this really, really popular, very expensive athletic wear store, the patrons who would go there were awful to the employees. And my old coworkers and I had a little, running joke that, oh, we're all trauma bonded from working there. And it took such a toll. I mean, there would be so many days where I would just cry in my car on the way home from work. It was not fulfilling, and I knew that I was meant for more. And so just looking back on that state of my mental health, it just really showed up mentally, physically. I was running myself ragged. I was working a shift until 10 or 11 at night and then going back the next morning. We call it a clopen. The next morning at 5 or 6 a.m. to open the store. So just really thinking about the types of jobs, and yes, this is a bit more of a sensitive subject because sometimes we just need a job to put food on our tables. Sometimes we can't just leave a very well-paying job or a job that is paying our bills and is funding our lifestyle. But I would challenge you with these questions, so writing these things down, to help you figure out your career and how, if you are not already in something that is in alignment with your skills, your talents, your gifts, or that you can tolerate and find joy in the work that you are doing somehow. Write these questions down. So, am I able to enjoy the work I am currently doing? Or am I able to find enjoyment in certain aspects of the work I'm currently doing? So those two things are very, very important. And if not, what are 3 things I need from a job in order to feel satisfied with the work I do? So this is going to help you really hone in on what it is you need out of your career, out of a job. And then the final question is, what are 2 things I can do tomorrow to begin my search for more satisfying work? Or what are 2 things I can do tomorrow to begin finding enjoyment in the work that I do? So really sitting with that. And if you are already doing work that you are aligned with, I love that for you. And it really shows on yourself and how you show up in the world when you're proud and you at least enjoy your work, or how you're spending those 8, 9, 12 hours Monday through Friday, or however many days you are at work. The next topic, or the next category that you should be scribbling in your notebook, and I want to make this clear that this category is not about going to college. It is about continuing to learn and be open to new experiences, new things, and new ideas throughout our lives. The next category is education. But as Albert Einstein put it, when we stop learning, we stop growing. When we stop learning, we stop growing. Another fascinating thing that we've learned through research from neuroscientists is what keeps us cognitively sharp into our old age is, you guessed it, those individuals that never stopped learning new things, new skills, new information, picking up new hobbies, etc. So all of those things, those are the people that live the longest. So education, yes, going to formal higher education, such as college, getting a master's, getting a doctorate, all of those things, yes, are part of education. But really, it's about being a lifelong student. So listening to podcasts, reading new books, traveling, seeing new cultures, learning about new cultures, watching documentaries, just always really looking into how can I keep growing? How can I keep learning? And that might be a missing piece for some of you on the wheel of holistic health. And I will add this episode as a blog post on my website. And I will add the little holistic wheel of health downloadable worksheet for you to do that will go with all 3 parts. So it will have all categories on it so that you can keep track of each category and how you progress and how much growth and attention you are giving to certain areas. And so you can visually also see where else might you need to dedicate a little more time to or a little more focus to. I love the worksheet. I do it every single new year and midway through the year, just as a little checkpoint too. So questions to ask yourself about education. What are 2 topics or skills or hobbies I have wanted to explore more And for example, last year I got into candle making and reading fantasy books. So I have always been a big reader, but I have really gravitated more towards strictly personal development books or like non-fiction type of books. And this year I let myself imagine and create the world that was in my book in my head. And it is so satisfying to finish a fantasy book or a book period. And then candle making, it has been my go-to for a housewarming gift or birthday gifts. It's a very unique gift, I feel like, because everybody loves candles. What are two hobbies? What are two skills? What are two topics that you want to dive into more this year and learn more about? Where might I find classes, information, research, or lessons to help me dive deeper into these topics? And I will give you the example that my partner is wanting to learn how to play the drums. So looking into where could he find drum lessons, just as an example. So where are you going to find classes? Where are you going to find the information? And we have information at our fingertips. I'm always Googling. I'm like a serial Googler. If I'm watching a show and I want to know, oh, how old is that person? Or if I am being a passenger princess and on a road trip and I see something, I see like a business or something. Oh, what is that hypertherapy or whatever? And I'm a serial Googler. I'm always Googling. But yes, age of information at our fingertips. And the last question is, how often can I commit to devoting time to learning about these two things? So what is that going to look like for you? How is that going to fit into your schedule? Are you carving out time out of your calendar? Are you habit stacking? After you close your laptop, are you immediately, that's the signal, laptop closed. That's when I'm going to go do my 20-30 minutes of learning how to crochet or something. I really want to learn how to crochet again. My great grandmother taught me like a long time ago when I was a little girl. And I forgot, but I would love to pick that up again. Okay. Moving on to the final topic, I believe. The last category is your home environment. The home environment. What on earth does that have to do with our health? And I'll tell you, it has a lot to do with our health. When our space is clean, when it's tidy and organized, it becomes a sacred space. We can begin to think clearly. We are flowing. Everything is functioning. And we are able to recharge in our sacred space with ease. And I just want to note what that will look like for each of us will vary. As it should, as we are all unique individuals. So thinking about when our home is not in its optimal condition, and what you can't see or what you can't hear if you are just listening is over here in this corner, behind the curtains, I have a humongous pile of clothes dumped in the corner. I have 2 suitcases I still haven't unpacked from Christmas. And this is like, we listen and we don't judge moment here. Okay. And that's just how it's been because life has been going fast and moving fast. But is it on my to-do list? Yes, it is on my to-do list to put away my suitcases and put away all my stack of laundry that I still have to. But the point is every single day when I come into my office to start my workday, and I just am met with that huge pile of clothing over there, it is an instant anxiety stressor for me. I'm just like, God, I wish that it was clean so that I could just be able to function and the space, the energy can flow a little bit more freely. And even today, as I'm recording this, my mind space, cognitively, I feel a bit more spacey than I usually am. Always, at maybe 20 to 30% spacey, just as an anxious girly and just thinking about everything with ADHD. But yeah, the percentage is a little bit higher today. And I have no doubt it is probably a contributing factor, that pile of clothing in the corner. So thinking about that, when our home is not in its optimal condition for you, so what that means to you and how that affects us mentally and on a physical level, when our surroundings are crowded, they're cluttered and chaotic, in the one place that it's supposed to be our sanctuary becomes stagnant and blocked, or it's just taking up an area of mental headspace because it's in the back of your mind constantly, like, yes, I need to put away this laundry. Yes, I need to go downstairs and do A, B, C, and D. And something that my partner and I have implemented in this new year is Sunday resets. So we will clean the entire house, just every single room, a little corner of every single room together. It gets it done a lot faster. And then we will meal prep for the week to ensure that we are reset and ready to go. And getting out your notebook again, if you set it aside, here are the questions to write down. Does my home environment feel like a sanctuary at this present moment? Yes or no? Or in general, has it felt like a sanctuary? And if not, what are 2 things I can do to make my space feel more relaxing and functional? And the last question, what might I change, or who might I enlist for their help that will help me flow and recharge and better my current space? And then never underestimating the power of partnership. If you have a friend who's amazing at interior design, or if you have a sister or a cousin or a brother or an aunt or an uncle, or somebody who you could enlist to help make your space the most peaceful and rejuvenating, a sanctuary for you and whatever that means to you, I invite you to enlist their help to help you accomplish this, because it does play a role into your health and your well-being, and it will just make everything coming home to your space so much better. So wrapping it all up, today we explored 5 key topics, key lifestyle factors that often go overlooked, but are so essential when it comes to holistic health. So remember, these are small shifts, and any type of small shifts in these areas can create a ripple effect across your life. Think about this week, think about 1 or 2 of these things that we discussed here today that you can start improving this week. So for example, maybe it's setting a bedtime routine or cooking just 1 meal at home. So starting very, very small. And then once you have those things down, building and working towards focusing on all of the 5 areas. In the final episode of this series, so part 3 of 3 will be the next episode I release. We are wrapping things up with a couple of topics that might be the most surprising, that entail finding your joy and reconnecting with your purpose through spirituality, creativity, and even your finances. There will be so much to talk about, and we will wrap everything up so nicely for you so that you have all of the tools you need to have the hottest, happiest, healthiest year yet, and so that you can take all of this information going forward and applying it to your life year after year, month after month, and tailoring it through the different chapters, the different stages as you move through life. So I will see you in the next one. I'm your host, Kamela Celeste, signing off.